Today, I want to talk about the very important theme that tomorrow matters. I was meeting with a group of young adults from our church, and we were doing kind of a Q&A, and one of the questions they asked I thought was really important. Someone asked, what is the biggest challenge you see in our generation? They're asking me, the older guy, what's the biggest challenge I see in the emerging generation? And you can read a lot of articles saying a lot of bad stuff about the millennials. I happen to be one that has more optimism in the emerging generation than you could ever imagine. I see so many things that are so exciting to me that just gives me great faith in our future. Though there's one issue that's kind of concerning, and it's not just for the millennials, it's really permeated all generations, but it's native to the younger generation, and that is they have been so conditioned to instant gratification that it's really difficult to think about the future. I mean, all of us have been spoiled with the now. I want it now. Gotta have it now. And especially the emerging generation, because you had everything so rapidly poured into your life. For example, in my life, if you're a good friend and I send you a text, honestly, I expect to see bubbles relatively quickly on my phone. I want to know you're texting me back quickly. Why? Because we're good friends. If I'm streaming a video on Netflix, I don't want it to buffer. I want it now. If I'm watching my favorite show, guess what? I don't want to wait until next week for my show to come on. I want it to roll immediately into my next show. I want it now. If I'm ordering something on my phone on Amazon, I want free shipping, and I want it in 2 days. It would be better if it'd be here now. We've been so conditioned to want things now that it's really difficult for so many people to actually think about tomorrow. In fact, one of the places that we see this show up, and we see it in so many places, in our relationships, in the way we take care of our bodies or don't take care of our bodies, but perhaps one of the most obvious places we see this today-centered mindset is when it comes to our finances, when it comes to money. In fact, according to an article I read on CNN, 76% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 76%. So if you're sitting, with 4 people on your row, that means 3 of them, if they lost their job today, wouldn't make rent in the upcoming month. 3 out of 4 people living paycheck to paycheck. And I just want to say for a moment that I do understand for some people, it's almost an accomplishment to do that. I know so many people that, a single parent raising 3 or 4 kids, with a college degree and no one's hiring in their field and, they're in a job that doesn't pay very much, and you're actually doing pretty good just to put food on the table. So I don't want to heap guilt on so many people who really are working hard, sometimes 2 jobs. There's a lot of people like that. But let's be really honest. Can we be honest for a moment? The vast majority of people listening to this message, the vast majority of people do not have to live that way. The problem is we have a today-centered mindset, and we're not actually being wise. And I'm going to talk into that today because what do we know? We know that, help me out, all of our churches, we know that tomorrow matters. Tomorrow matters. When we recognize that tomorrow matters, what will it do? It will change the way we live today. When we recognize that tomorrow matters, it will change the way we handle money today. When we recognize tomorrow matters, it'll change the way we live today. In fact, let me show you a couple of verses and then tell you one parable that really illustrates the principle that tomorrow matters. Proverbs 21, verse 20 says this, "The wise have wealth and luxury. But what do fools do?" Let's all say it aloud. "But fools spend whatever they get." In the Hebrew language, you know how that's literally translated? It says this. In the Hebrew language, it means they live paycheck to paycheck. Not really, I just made that up, but work with me, okay? They spend everything that they get. The wise have some, the fools spend it all. And then in Proverbs 6, verses 6 through 8, this verse kind of makes me laugh. It's almost like Solomon's being a little bit of a smart aleck. He's got a little edge to him. Here's what he says. I love this. He says, "Go to the ant, you sluggard." I just love that word sluggard. Like I just want to call somebody a sluggard, okay? I don't want to be called a sluggard. "Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider its ways and be wise. And then it says, it has no commander, no overseer, no ruler. But what does the ant know? What does the ant know? The ant knows that winter is coming. The ant knows that tomorrow is coming. The ant knows that tomorrow matters. So go to the ant, he says. What does the ant do? It stores its provision in summer, and it gathers its food at the harvest. What does the ant know? The ant knows that tomorrow matters. I also want to talk about a parable that's found in Matthew 25. This is a well-known parable, but I don't think a lot of us think through exactly what Jesus said at the end of this parable. It's known as the parable of the talents. A talent is actually a measure of money. Some versions would say, this master gave out 5 bags of gold to one guy, 2 bags of gold to another, and 1 bag of gold to another. Whatever it is, it's a measurement of money. This guy got 5, 2, and 1. And then the master went away. And when he came back, the one with 5 bags multiplied the money by investing it wisely. The guy with 2 bags multiplied the money by investing it wisely. The guy with 1 bag, though, buried it, didn't do anything with it, didn't have any concern for tomorrow, played it safe, and just put it aside. And what did the master say? The master said, take that thing from the one and give it to someone else. And here's what the master said. Jesus said, whoever is faithful with a little will be blessed with more. Whoever is faithful with a little, and what was faithful to Jesus? Those who multiplied what they had. Whoever is faithful with a little will be blessed with more. Now, don't miss this. Then the master said to the guy that only had 1, that lost his 1, you know what he called him? He called him a wicked and lazy servant. Now, not just lazy, but wicked. Wicked. You didn't think about tomorrow. You weren't wise with what I trusted you with. You're not only a sluggard, just got my word in there, okay? You're not only lazy, but you're wicked. The faithful one multiplies what they have and can be trusted with more. So, I want to talk about something that some people are like, I can't believe we're talking about this in church. If it's important to Jesus, I think it should be important to us in church to make grow what God trusts to us. So let's talk about it today. And I want to give you 2 thoughts about ways to make money. The first is obvious. The second is not as obvious to some. How can you make money? The first way is people making money. And this is the way we typically do it. You have talents, you have a gift, you go to work, you work 40 hours a week, or you work 60 hours a week, or whatever. And then every 2 weeks or every whenever, you get paid for your work. People making money. The second way to make money is actually putting your money to work. And that is your money making money. And this is something that some people never ever think about. In fact, this is exactly what happened in the parable I told you about. In Matthew 25, verse 16, Jesus essentially said the 2 guys put their money to work and their money made money. This is what he said. The man who received 5 bags of gold went at once, and what does he do? Let's all say it aloud. It's right here. He put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So, when God trusts you with something, you have a choice of what you can do with it. What you can do is what many people do, and that is they spend all they have. And when you spend all you have, then it's gone. On the other hand, you can spend some, you can give some, and perhaps you can invest some. And if you invest wisely, you might actually multiply what you have, and then you have more. And God may look at that and say, oh, you've been faithful. I can trust you with even more than that. How do you do that? You can work for money, and you can put your money to work and have it make money as well. I want to talk to you today about, help me, about tomorrow matters. How do we maximize what we have today in order to change tomorrow? When we realize that tomorrow matters, it'll change what we do with resources today. I want to talk to you about investing. Now, a lot of you will say, oh man, I got no idea how to invest, okay? I remember exactly thinking this years and years ago. I was in my 20s and like, where do you invest and how do you do it and how do you learn? Because let's be honest, they're not teaching this in high school. Virtually every major in college, you're not going to learn this. You get out in life and you're just trying to pay your bills. How in the world are we going to learn? So I'm going to state the obvious, and that is I am not an investing specialist. I'm not a financial planner. What am I? I'm a pastor. And so I'm not going to tell you how to invest because that could be dangerous for both of us, right? I'm not an investing specialist, okay? But what I've been doing, if you'll notice, for weeks and weeks is I've been trying and begging and pleading with you to get in Financial Peace University. And the reason is because Amy and I have been through this class 6 or 7 times, okay? And what happens is we learn a little more every time. And what you do is you learn to get out of debt. You learn what kind of insurance to buy. You learn how to plan for retirement. And you learn really solid principles about investing, and it gives you enough to get the ball rolling. And once you get the ball rolling, you start to grow some more. Now, as a pastor, what can I do? I can actually show you some biblical principles that apply broadly that are kind of principles we all need to apply when investing. So that's what I want to do today, give you 3 thoughts from Scripture that I believe are really important. The first one is this, investing principle number 1. We need to remember never to invest in things we don't understand. Thought number 1, don't invest in things you don't understand. Proverbs 24, verses 3 and 4 says, by wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it's established. In other words, you want to build a house, you need wisdom. You want to build your wealth, you need wisdom. You want to build anything, we want wisdom and understanding. Through knowledge, its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. We want to understand before we invest in anything. I'll give you an example of a bad investment I made in my early years of learning to invest. I was in my early, maybe mid-20s, and I decided I needed to invest in stocks. Why? Because that's what people who know how to invest do. They invest in stocks. The problem is I didn't know how to invest in stocks, but boy, it sounded sexy. What are you investing in? Well, I invest in stocks, okay? And so I bought my first individual stock, and it was one that I got on a tip from somebody who said, you need to buy Lucent stock. Now, some of you say, I remember Lucent. That was one of the most widely held stocks in the U.S., and it had really done really, really well. And when something does really, really well, people like me tend to buy it at the top, which is exactly what I did. And so I put some money into Lucent, and then I watched it go down, 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 down. I sold somewhere along the way. I have no idea how much I lost, but I didn't understand. I'm investing in Lucent stock. That sounded so good. Here's all I know. If I had put $1,000 in Lucent stock back in the 90s, I would have a few dollars today. If I bought $1,000 worth of Mountain Dew back in the 90s and kept the aluminum cans, I might have more money in the aluminum cans than I would have in Lucent stock. Why? I didn't know what I was doing. If you can't explain it, don't do it. And that's why some people say sometimes the best investments are the ones that you don't make. Let me say it again. This will save some of you heart. Sometimes the best investments are the ones that you do not make. By wisdom and understanding, you build things. Therefore, we will not invest in things that we do not understand. The second principle, if you're taking notes, is this. We're going to never put our eggs in one basket. Number 2, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Did you know that your grandma said that and the Bible says it too? Grandma's pretty smart. Thanks, Nana. Okay? She knew what she was saying. This is what Ecclesiastes says. Ecclesiastes 11:2. The Bible says to do what? Let's all say it aloud. We're told to do what? To divide your investments among many places. Why? For you do not know what risks might lie ahead. We're going to spread out our investments over time. What does that mean? We're not putting all of our money into Lucent stock. We're not putting all of our money into the market, all of our money into bonds, all of our money into real estate, all of our money into commodities or whatever. As we learn, we'll put a little bit here. We'll get a little experience. We'll grow. We'll get better. We'll make some mistakes. Then we're going to put a little bit over here, and then we'll grow and make some, and then we'll put a little bit over here, and we're going to be diversified so we don't end up getting hurt when one industry or one sector tends to go down. Investing is a little bit like, this is going to be kind of fun and gross all at the same time. Where else can you get this but at Life Church? Investing is a little bit like manure. That's right, manure. If you put a bunch of manure in one place, what happens? It's stanky. It smells bad, okay? But if you spread it out in the field, you got to work with me. You got to work with me, okay? If you spread it out, what happens? It's actually like fertilizer, and it makes things grow. See what I did there, okay? If you put too many eggs in one basket, it's like manure, it's going to stink over time. So what do we know? We're not going to invest in things that we don't understand. If we don't understand it, we're not investing in it. And we're not going to put all our investments in one place. The third thing, and I'm going to spend a little more time here because this is what we need, and honestly, this is what I need. The third principle from Scripture is this. The Bible teaches us this. Don't try to get rich quick. Don't try to get rich quick. Okay? This is one of the biggest dangers that so many of us have. And Paul was discipling young Timothy, and he told him this in 1 Timothy 6:9. He said, those who want to get rich, what happens? They fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. What happens when you get greedy, man? You're not objective. When you're self-centered and you want to just, I want it all now, and that's where so many people are, you don't make wise decisions, and you end up falling into a trap. You're really vulnerable to the evil one to lure you off of the path of pursuing Christ. We wrongly pursue only money, and then we get ourselves in really, really big trouble. Don't invest in things you don't understand. Don't try to get rich quick. I made a massive mistake. Pastor Jerry, in the early years, we used to do a building fund, and it's kind of cool. We don't even do that now. We just trust people to give, and we would give the tithe, and then we would give above the tithe for like a 3-year commitment. And so Amy and I made what was a massive commitment to the building fund for our size income, and we were having a hard time meeting that. And there was this guy from the church who was a day trader, and he was kind of really enthusiastic. A lot of day traders are. And he said, man, I got this deal, and it's going to be awesome, man. He said, I think you can multiply your money times 10 in about 2 weeks. And he told me about this deal. I didn't really understand it, but I thought if I can multiply my money in 2 weeks like that, this is really good. So I told Amy about it. What do you think she said? Don't do it, don't do it. But you know how women are. They're like smart and wise and stuff like that. And how are guys? You don't understand, it's a good deal. And so I took what was a lot of money to me at the time, and I effectively turned it into $0 in less than 2 weeks. To $0. Why? I was greedy, man. I didn't understand it, couldn't explain it. I wanted to get the hit now. And here's the problem, and I want to say especially to the men, because men, I think we're more vulnerable to this. We tend to be sprinters, okay? Our identity is that we want to provide, we want to give, we want to win, we want the hit. And what we have to remember is we are not sprinting investors. We are marathon investors. We're not in this for the quick hit. We're thinking long term. And this is actually very scriptural too. In fact, the Bible says in Proverbs 13:11 that dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers it how? Whoever gathers it little by little makes it grow. Little by little, little by little, little by little, little by little makes it grow. In fact, if you'll look in your notes, I put down just kind of a little formula that is pretty much guaranteed over time. And that's this, that you want to create wealth, you want to be faithful. And let me tell you what, wealth's not bad when you use it to do good things, right? Let me say it again, wealth is not bad when you use it to do good things. It's really tragic that in our country today, people hate wealthy people. Listen, it's a lot easier to do good when you have something to do good with, when you don't have anything to do good with. Do I need to say it again? Okay? And here's the little formula. Money plus consistency plus time equals wealth. Money plus consistency plus time equals wealth. If we put a little bit aside, we invest a little bit consistently over time in even a marginal investment, just a decent one, money plus consistency plus time equals wealth. And so we don't have to be like rocket scientists. Some people teach a real simple principle, 10, 10, 80. What do? We're blessed with 100%. The first 10% we give to God. Then we put 10% aside. We're either saving it or we're investing it over time. And then the other 80%, we live off of ourselves. I'll tell you a little bit of my story, and because I like to be transparent and honest. Years ago, I would say it this way, God gave me 2 talents and an opportunity. 2 talents. I was 19, and I tithed for the first time. I told you that last week. And my grandmother blessed me with a car. I had money set aside to buy a car. I was going to buy a used car, and I had some money set aside. 19 years of age, and an older a fraternity brother, an alumni, came to me and said, man, my mom's got a house that no one's living in. Would you want to buy her house? 19 years of age. I'm like, I can't afford a house. He said, this is a really inexpensive house. It's close to the university. You could put some guys in there. I actually think it could be really good for you. And so, I got my parents to help me look at it, and it was a very inexpensive 2-bedroom house. This is 29 years ago, and we agreed on a price of $14,900 for this little bitty 2-bedroom house, and he agreed to carry the note. I put some money down, put it on a 10-year note, and my payment, I still remember, was $151.66 a month, which was less than the rent that I was paying in my fraternity house. And so I thought, I'll move in one room, and then I'll rent the other room, and I'll be way out ahead. Then I got really smart and realized, no, I'll just tell my fraternity brothers it's $100 a pop. As many guys can live in there as they want for $100. And you know how college guys are, they're nasty. 7 or 8 guys would pile into this house for $100 a pop. And all of a sudden I was going, my payment's this, I got $700 a month, my payment's still $151. And this is good. I was an investor in real estate at 19 and didn't even know what I was doing. Then a little house came up for sale down the street, and I went to an auction and ended up buying this house for $11,900, the second house. So now I'm 19, maybe 20, and I've got 2 houses, okay? Then I met Amy, and I fell in love so hard, so fast, okay? We're dating, and we're on a walk one day, and she sees this house, and she's like, if we ever get married, I'd love to live in that house. It was an expensive house, crazy expensive. It was $30,000, okay? This is way out of my league. And it had a garage apartment. And so I thought, well, if she wants to live there one day, I'm buying that one. Okay, so now I'm 21, and I've got 4 rental units. I've got 3 houses and a garage apartment, okay? And so what happened? I was given 2 talents and an opportunity and took a risk and made all sorts of mistakes along the way. But over 29 years, I've been doing real estate. And some people say, well, pastor shouldn't, listen to me. I started before I was a pastor, and as far as I can tell, that when you're faithful with a little and you grow it, that's actually pleasing to God. Okay? So today, we take what we make off that, we give an extravagant amount, we take some of it and invest it in other places with help from experts, because I understand real estate, but I don't know other things. And so just to be real transparent, we were able to live very comfortably, and we were able to give massively, extravagantly. Why? Because years ago, we recognized tomorrow matters. And when we understand that tomorrow matters, it will change what we do today. Tomorrow matters. Before I preach, here's a little behind-the-scenes stuff. I always go over the message with people on my staff, and I always want to get their feedback. I was talking to this one girl, and she just kind of got emotional, and she said, but I was a single mom, and I barely could do anything, and it was so tough, and I was paycheck to paycheck, and now it's years later, and I'm married, and we're able to invest in our retirement and all this kind of stuff, and I feel so bad because of then. And I said, here's what I want you to understand. Don't forget this. That was then, and this is now. Some of you right now, you're in the then. You're in that season where you can't do hardly anything. But it doesn't mean that you're going to be there forever. And I helped this girl see, you're married now, you're putting money away every single month into retirement. The only debt that you have is your car and your house. Your car is going to be paid off in the next 9 months. Look where you are now. Look where you are now. If you feel discouraged, maybe one day you're going to look back and say, well, that was just the then. And when you recognize that less is more, financial stress is bad, giving is good, and tomorrow matters, and consistently over time, you start doing the right thing, guess what happens? God meets you in your faith. And little by little, you start doing better. Little by little, you start learning. Little by little, you pay something off. Little by little, you're even more generous. Then you make your first investment. Then you're putting some aside for retirement. And years go by, 29 years for me, 29 years in real estate for me. And I didn't get rich quick, but little by little, we've been extraordinarily blessed by following these principles. So, as your pastor, let me tell you what I want for you. I hope every single one of you, you become incredible investors. But don't think for a moment, I'm just talking money. Okay? The best investment Jesus made was in some men and some women who ended up giving their lives for the cause of Christ, and we are here today because of the relational investment he made in them. My prayer for you is that you become an incredible investor, that you get rich in every way. I pray that you invest in your marriage and you are rich with the blessings of intimacy in your marriage. I pray you invest in your children and you are blessed and overwhelming with a rich relationship with Jesus, following kids that go into serving God with all that they do. I pray you invest in your friendships and you're rich in spiritual community, friends who would lay down their life for you as you would for them. I pray you invest in your church, and suddenly you realize you just don't go to church, but you are the church. And as you pour your gifts and your resources into the church, you recognize the church is making a difference all over the world. And I pray that you would also steward wisely your resources, recognizing that less is more, stress is bad, giving is good, and tomorrow matters. And one day you wake up and realize, I had never thought I could be this blessed. And when you are that blessed, you recognize it is from God and it's not all for me. I will enjoy some of it and use much of it to be a blessing in this world. Why? Because it is truly more blessed to give than it is to receive. So if you're hurting today, recognize years from now, today will only be a memory. And if you recognize that tomorrow matters, it will change what you do today.